Well, welcome everybody to the next episode of the Bank Marketing Show. I'm Dan Navalis.
I'm Chris Bates, and glad to be here with you for another one, Dan, and very excited about our guest today.
Yeah, we talk a lot on here about differentiating and about how a lot of banks try to be everything to everybody. So we're going to get into today with our guest, one bank that's has a good path to differentiating. We talk a lot. Chris, you and I talk a lot about it from the consulting kind of agency perspective, but excited to talk about it from the banker perspective today.
Well, and that mindset and topic area, Dan, is why Amber came to mind. And Amber Murphy, welcome. We are really glad to have you with us today.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
Absolutely. So, Amber, you are the Vice President Marketing Director for, we call it FFB, but as a term of endearment, but First Financial Bank. You've been there since 2013. And you get the opportunity to really lead the bank's brand and marketing communications and all of that. I've had the opportunity in our work together to meet some of your team as well, and our team works with your team. You guys are just a phenomenal bunch. And you're a graduate of University of Arkansas, and like many of us, also bank marketing school, ABA Bank Marketing School, which is great. You're also involved in Arkansas Bankers and a number of other nonprofit organizations that you offer your leadership for as well. And just love your direction that you lead First Financial and where you guys are with your marketing. So just super glad to have you here with us today.
No, excited to be here and excited about the banking industry just in general. So looking forward to our discussion.
Yep, great. Well, good. Well, help paint the picture for us a little bit. Kind of tell us about your pathway to where you are today and where First Financial is today with your marketing.
Yeah, absolutely. So I joined First Financial Bank back in 2013 as the marketing assistant. And, our bank has had so much growth over the past decade, and just excited for opportunities, and that opened doors for me here within the bank. Just getting more involved, learning more about the banking industry. And that's something I just can't tell enough to, young bankers and just anyone in general breaking into the banking industry. Get involved, ask questions, and be bold. Certainly, that's a lot of times how doors have opened for me along my career, is just, asking more questions and, having a seat at the table to, learn more about, for us, it's branching into new markets or new industries. We'll certainly talk about that a little bit more. But just, that's something that has certainly, taken my pathway here at First Financial Bank. And I've worked in all aspects of our marketing department, and, certainly worked along on special projects throughout the way. And that's kind of shaped me to have a better understanding of, First Financial Bank, who we are, which allows me to tell our story. And that's what marketing really is telling your story about your brand and your services and your products, and certainly your team. That's something that I'd love to talk about a little bit more, is, our team and something we really strive to, build those relationships.
Well, and we love your story and, where you're coming from that. And some of what we're going to talk about today is the uniquenesses of that, broadly said, and what it is. And having also met with your leadership, Amber, it's great that you guys have that corporate culture of that personal growth and career growth opportunity and all of those things. And that, as you mentioned, has stemmed into tremendous growth for the bank, over the last decade plus. And it's been great to be a part of and witness that as well. So, and I think a lot of what we're going to talk about today is a lot of the why. What's really helped you guys do that. Part of what we hear all the time is community banks and community bankers are about being local and relationship. And yes, those things are true, and they are correct, and they are key, and those are key differentiators from fintechs, nationals, all those kind of things, and it's important. And I think it's got to go deeper. It's got to, really marketing has got to speak into that in ways that, so to speak, actually move the needle, don't you? And tell us a little bit about you guys in terms of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, all community banks, we have checking accounts, we have, CDs, we have all of the same products essentially and services. And, a lot of those are driven by rates, but, also the Fed, they set the rates. And then, we are certainly some banks, just depending on their strategy and their goals, those rates will differentiate a little bit across the board in your local markets. But, we're also competing against mega banks and, the larger banks in some of our markets, even though we're in rural markets across Arkansas and Mississippi for our retail locations, we still have a lot of competition. And something we differentiated ourselves, back in the 80s is, going after some specialty lending. And so we broke into the poultry industry. So we joke about it. We're the chicken bank. So, we do a lot of poultry loans across the U.S. We have loan production offices that, that's all they do is they offer lending for poultry farmers all the way from Delaware down to Texas. So excited to have that foundation. That's kind of where we started our specialty lending division, and now have branched out over the past, I would say 13-14 years, is really specializing in different industries. And that's something that, has led to a lot of our growth is, finding and navigating those specialty lending divisions and finding team members that are specialized in those divisions too. So, it's one thing to be a banker and be a lender, but when and you've been a farmer and you have a poultry operation and you're a lender, it just offers a wealth of knowledge to our customers. And that's kind of been our sweet spot, and something that we really focus on is not only just being in the industry, but also being industry specific. And I think that's what sets us apart is, you can be a, business owner and things like that. But when you can be on the other side of it and be a financial advisor for them as well, it makes a difference.
There's probably a lot of bankers listening that, that think, hey, we can be everything to everybody, right? We can provide that specialty loan. We can do all these, and we want to do all these things. This is how we're going to grow, is that we can be I hear banks say stuff like, we can provide financial solutions for any need. But I think from the marketing perspective, and what I was kind of hinting at the very top of the episode was like, that's a great way to just turn your marketing into generic terms, where financial solutions for any need, great. But a consumer hearing that against another bank or a fintech saying specialty loans for chicken farmers, if you're the chicken farmer and you need a loan, you're going to go there. And I think, I think the bankers, that I know that, but it's really hard to kind of balance marketing messages with, especially if you're trying to like go into 12 different industry verticals, right?
Right.
So I know as your bank's grown, you've got scale. I don't know how many, you got a few dozen locations, right? So you've got some scale, but like, you're doing a great job of getting into these different industry verticals. It sounds like the mindset kind of started as the chicken bank, right? But what was the kind of, what was the spark for that, right? How do you think about taking that spark and going to, using that to get into other niches? Does it start with a marketing strategy? Does it start with like, the specializations of people on your team? Like, tell us about that process.
Yeah, sure. It's kind of a combination of both. It usually is data driven. So we're kind of watching and seeing, what areas could we, explore next. And that's something that our leadership team is certainly looking and navigating. And, just we're a large SBA lender. So, we're usually trying to, find those niche lending divisions that, are going to make sense for us. based on our size and, where we're located. But also, we went through a rebranding several years ago, and that's something that, it just brought to light who we are, and really kind of focused on some brand pillars, and also coming up with a new tagline, and we're in the business of you. And so that's something that, our leadership, our team members, is something that we're always striving to do, and looking at and saying, okay, if we're in the business of you, how can we customize our marketing campaigns, or how can we specialize ourselves to meet the needs of our customers and our potential customers, our prospects that are out there. So like you said, we're not going to say we have the financial solutions for your needs. We're going to be more specialized, and we're going to say, based on that industry, or even in our retail campaigns, we're going to have 4 or 5 campaigns. We did this last year with our core conversion. Just our customer demographic is so different across our markets. So we had 4 campaigns running for our core conversion just to capitalize on that. We want to make sure that our marketing messages are specific for our customers. Mm-hmm. And our prospects, when we have campaigns running, whether it's a billboard campaign or a radio, we have 3 or 4 running at the same time, because we know that, a young millennial is not going to resonate with the same ad that a baby boomer will, or someone that's married versus someone that's single. So really thinking about the different age demographics, but also, who you're trying to target with that product or service, and being very specialized, and knowing and going at it more of like a rifle approach and more targeted with your ads has been something that has been really successful for us, and focusing more. A lot of times that, on our marketing team, we focus on quality versus quantity. Yeah. And that's something that is really hard as a marketer, because you want to get your name out there to the masses. And we do want to do that for brand awareness. But when you're really working on results and campaigns, you've got to drill it down, and you've got to have those wins with the lower, quantity, but you're going to get a higher quality result.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to have that billboard,
yep.
the highway billboard, or the proverbial highway billboard, if not an actual one, that has your logo that says, we're in the business of you, but that's not where the results are coming from. That's probably bumping the results up from other stuff you're doing.
Yeah, it's brand.
But you're not getting people exiting the highway to go right to your bank. But if you layer that with a digital ad towards millennials that then says, here's a millennial problem that we solve, and here's why you should come in, those things start working together, and that's where the results come from. So I love how you kind of put that of like, what you're really describing is a customer first strategy, which lots of banks talk about doing, but this is, I think conceptually, like the bank marketing industry kind of knows that, but it's the execution piece that often the step gets skipped.
Yeah, Amber, I think something else you just said too is a really important call out for our listeners. And you made a comment that the specialization, and I'm sorry, I'm kind of paraphrasing, but that it gives you more of a dial in and more content, if you will, and lets you do things like that specialization to different audiences. And Dan, to your point, different resolution for different pain points and those types of things. It doesn't restrict you. It actually expands your opportunities for better marketing. If I heard you say that correctly, and because we work with you guys, I know that's the case. And that is huge, because what we hear so often from community bankers is this incorrect assumption of the opposite, is that, if we specialize, then because we can't be all things to all people, we're going to have less to drill in about in our marketing, and less content, and less to talk about. And it's actually the opposite of that. And it's for you guys, it's enabled your marketing to go deeper in those industries. Is that correct? And can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. You're correct. That's something that, I would say over the past decade, we've really focused on is, we were just very generic. I mean, it goes down to our tagline used to be all the bank you'll ever need. Well, we're not going to be all the bank for every single customer. And that's something that was really telling. And when we, went through some rebranding, it was more of a discovery phase for us to see, okay, who do we want to be and where do we want to position ourselves for future growth? And with our specialty lending divisions, we have farm and ranch division, we have a pet care business facility. So think about, dog kennels and doggy daycares and certain pet resorts. But then also just thinking about how specialized those are and who that customer is something that you really have to pinpoint with your marketing. And, you have to be very dedicated to your statistics and your data that you're looking at and making sure that you're looking at those campaigns, on a regular basis. When you're doing something with your marketing that is very specialized, you've got to watch your results and look at that data to tell you what's working. Follow your leads, lead generation. And, a lot of community banks don't have a lot of I would say resources to invest, whether it's a CRM or some sort of database. You can certainly drive that just with some reports from, new accounts open.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to get too complicated. So I would certainly encourage community bankers that, just simplify it. Just get some ROI numbers. You need to be able to track your return on investment. You need to be able to see where the campaigns are being successful. So whatever data that you can track, you need to be tracking. And digital ads is a great way to track your results. Whenever you have digital campaigns, the data's there. So, follow it, run several campaigns against each other so that you can see which one's resonating, which one's being more productive and more efficient. And make adjustments. And it's okay. You're going to have campaigns that are going to be a bust. And that's not a failure on you. That's just, hey, let's take a look at this. Let's rework it. Let's fine tune some keywords. Let's add some different imagery and throw it back out there and see what works. So don't be afraid to switch it up and see what works.
Well, and your banks, I mean, you have how many, I'm put you on the spot, but roughly like how many kind of niche lending sectors do you have or segments do you think about?
So we have your traditional like retail, consumer, and business lending. And then we have poultry lending, farm and ranch lending, pharmacy lending, pet care, logistics, and I'm forgetting what, veterinary.
So like, if you're and you guys have a little bit of scale, right? But if you're not a mega bank by any means, but like you're a large community bank. And, I think a question I get a lot from tiny banks is like, well, how do we speak to, we can't limit our marketing to speak to one consumer group, right? We're too small. We're looking at the community overall. And I think what we're hearing from you is like, what we're trying to say is like, if you try to just speak to the whole community, you're not speaking to anybody. You're not standing out. Yeah. And so you have some scale. And the point I wanted to make was you've got 10 or 15 different kind of niches you're thinking about. And so maybe like the small community bank thinks of two, right? You're running a couple campaigns, or you start with one or two and you get kind of good at it and you add more legs to that stool over time. But like, there's no other good way to do it. Like that's how you have to kind of operate in today's, with modern marketing to reach those. Don't talk about ag loans, talk about, soybean farm operating loans. Like, get a little bit more specific and you're better off starting with owning a full piece of the pie than just a little bit of the whole pie.
Yep, absolutely. And it doesn't have to be just in your traditional marketing, whether it's, radio, billboard. You can even get more specialized with, I would say, your business development efforts, your grassroots efforts. Take a target that you're wanting to really grow in your market and focus on them, whether it's with, teachers or attorneys or insurance companies or whatever it may be. Focus and do some investments with your, marketing resources in those efforts too. So that's something that we focused on a lot with, I would say, our retail, our more traditional community banks as our business development efforts, and leading those efforts with a real focus. I mean, everything we do, it has a focus, whether it's, with our niche lending divisions or our community banks focusing on, certain areas. It just works. You're going to have more success whenever you're more focused. I mean, even think about it from, a personal standpoint. When you have a to-do list and you're focused, you get things done and it drives results. And it's the same way with your marketing efforts, is, having a plan and executing it.
Yeah, and you guys take that as far as, over the years, you've gotten engaged in those industries associations and all those things. So you really drill into that. And Amber, and Dan, what you were just describing, it's almost like a smaller community bank. I mean, Google the top 50 industries for SBA lending, and I'm going to give you a list and whatever it is. I mean, I don't care if you're doing golf balls or what, pick your industry, right? But I mean, you can even start with lists like that and go, hey, you know what? We've got 3 or 4 people in the bank that are really good at, they kind of know this, and we happen to already have a little bit of not a niche, a full-blown niche, but a little bit of an industry in this area. So go deep with that. And it's not an all or nothing thinking. You don't have to shut down your consumer and small business retail. That's not what you're doing. You're not jumping off the diving board with no safety rope. It's not that at all. But it's exploring those and doing that. And I've watched the FFB story over the years and what you guys have done. And boy, when you start getting some traction, then traction begets traction, and it starts, doing that. And it's been so great to watch how you guys do that and then further differentiate and specialize. Then you become, I'm opening a dog wash. Wow, they know exactly what I need. They're not just a bank. They know they do a lot of this, and they know the problems that I have. They understand my cash flow issues. They understand that. So you address, Dan, what you were talking about earlier, those pain points assumptively, and then they come to you and find out it's true. It's a great process.
Like, why would you not go to the chicken bank or the dog wash bank if that's your business?
That's right. But you were talking about the specialization and kind of how that process that you guys have done that more.
Yeah. And that's one thing that we really, specialize with our lending teams, is trying to find someone that's already immersed in the industry, whether it's a local pharmacist or someone that has, been a previous poultry farmer and has an operation. So we're really, focused on building teams that are invested in the industry. And then we can add in the banking knowledge, because we have so many experts here that already have that banking industry knowledge. And having that knowledge that is specific to that niche lending division just makes all the difference.
That's great stuff. Well, seeing that model and talking about how that's doable for bankers. So talk a little bit more, Amber, about the marketing aspects of that. You mentioned traditional, digital, those types of things, and kind of how you guys do that messaging and overlapping and differentiation through your marketing.
Yeah. So our marketing team, we're well positioned with some great partners like Agora Eversole for some of our traditional media, but then also have some partners that we have, digital ad campaigns we're running, grassroots events that our internal marketing team are really leading and really getting us involved with those trade associations, conferences. And that's where we're able to really immerse ourselves in the industry and learn anything that's, industry trends, tips, that sort of thing. And also just working with our teams to kind of be more specific in those industries.
And be where the customer is.
That's right.
I love, and there's a few other banks too doing a similar kind of trade, let's say a conference strategy, right? If there's, and you don't have to be, you're multi-state, but you don't have to be that. You can, there's ag conferences and things like that in every state, or find the local union, find the thing that's the customers you can serve well and be there. Think a little deeper than the community parade. Do that too, but for different reasons,
Yeah.
And if you show up at the trade conference, I know that just from working with banks, right? If I take my business to a banking conference, bankers, even if somebody's not interested in working with me, I get a lot of like, hey, thanks for supporting the conference. And the same thing, you're part, you show you're part of the industry, and it goes such a long way.
It does. And we have a blog as well. So we spend a lot of our efforts, we want to be seen as that trusted advisor in all of our industries. So we're writing blog content based on those niche lending divisions, because a lot of times there's not a lot of resources out there to help those business lines succeed. So,
Yeah.
They're looking for information to, advance their business, diversify, increase cash flow. So we're having our loan officers kind of feature different tips and industry knowledge in those articles that can be beneficial for our customers and just the industry in general. So, having some specific content that's really out there just for those industries has helped us as well. And we publish, some newsletters and send that out to our industry partners and our customers. And that certainly helped us move the needle, I would say, in the niche lending division. Just having some content out there that we saw a need, and our customers would come to us asking questions, and it kind of all just started something several years ago, as we wanted to have more information out there to help our customers succeed. That's what we want at the end of the day. We want them to come back and need an expansion loan and want to grow and expand their farm or their business line that they have.
Yeah, there's probably 1,000 different blog articles on expansion loans in general, but not that many on poultry farm, expansion, cash flow, operating, getting into the specific problems. There's not that many of them. And so even if you're, just like you said, to like split your campaigns up into 4 or 5 different segments, you do a similar thing with blogs, right? Like of expansion loan blog, but then you have 4 or 5 different versions that speak to specific customer problems, and it's not 4 or 5 times the work.
That's right. Like right now, we just published one about how to winterize your farm equipment and all of the things that go into winterizing your farm equipment and why it's important, and making sure your generators and you have fuel on hand and all of those things that, necessarily wouldn't come to mind to some newer farmers, but it can be a large investment if they don't invest in, winterizing some of their equipment. So when they're ready to go and it's planting season in the spring, and then they have some equipment that needs repairs, it can be very costly and really eat into that cash flow.
Well, and you're talking about just being resourceful to the specific industries that you're serving well. Back up 4 years, Dan and I started talking about doing this bank marketing show thing, and we're like, gosh, that's really specific into the end. But it is, and that's the point. And what's coming and has come to fruition for us is the exact same thing that you're describing. Is we start getting feedback over time. So you guys hear from your farmers, from your veterinarians, from your pharmacists, from your all of these that you're in, that like, hey, that was really helpful. Hey, that was really, and then you go deeper and deeper and continue to evolve that. It makes so much sense. Yet there are a lot of our listeners, Amber, that just aren't doing a great job of pursuing some of those drilling in opportunities, and really should. And I hope hearing this from you today is going to encourage more of that. Like, yeah, we could really try, doing this, because we've got some folks that are really good at this, fill in the blank industry. So, or industries. Like you said, Dan, don't pick 10 or 12. A smaller community bank can pick 2.
Yeah. Or even if you are a large community bank, don't start with 12. Start with 1 or 2 and figure out the sort of the recipe that works for you in 1 or 2 of your strongest segments, and you can expand from there a lot easier. But if you start with 12, you're going to get overwhelmed and nothing's going to work.
Yeah. Well, great. Amber, this some tremendous takeaway information here. Really, really great. So I'm interested from your seat, getting a little bit broader here in the thinking about marketing, is where you see community bank marketing and community banking, where we are, but where we're going over the next 12 to 18 months, because it's becoming a faster and faster moving world. And certainly marketing is at a forefront of that.
Absolutely, it is. It's fast paced, but it's certainly something that we've kind of hit on earlier in the show is just really focusing on who you are and not trying to differentiate from who that is, and just really spend some time with your leadership, and know who you are and who you want to be in 12 to 14 months, or even down the line 5 years from now. um, Obviously digital is a huge component, I would say, in marketing, and something that if you haven't already invested in, you need to be. And if you don't have the resources, invest in, an ad agency to work with you. That was one of the best decisions we did, I would say, probably 5, 6 years ago, is really getting with some ad agencies that, really understood us and banking, and helped us position ourselves just to grow digitally, but then also rebranding. It's a great way to get started. If you don't know who you are, you can't grow, and you're not going to be successful. And I would say within digital, make sure your website is easily navigated. If you haven't done a website refresh in the past 3 to 5 years, you need to add that on. That needs to be done immediately. I mean, I cannot preach that enough. We did one, and we are due. And certainly that's something that's in our plans over the next year or two, is to update our website, make sure your app is reliable and easily navigated. You want those digital products that you have for these younger generations. That's what they're using. So you want to position yourself with those digital components and that technology that's going to help you, stand up to those local competition that you have in your markets, but then also the national banks. You got to have that ease of use for that younger generation to even be competitive. But at the end of the day, I would say just know who you are, know what your story is, and stay true to that. And be sure that you are being selective and specialized in whatever you want to specialize in at your bank, and focus on that. And focus on your team members. That is your largest differentiator at your community bank, is your team members and your service that you provide in your community. You all have checking accounts, you all have loans. Some of you may have some niche lending like we do here at First Financial Bank, but at the end of the day, you do have those financial resources and solutions for them. So it's about specializing your marketing efforts, your team members, and focusing on those, and staying true to them, even though it might not be everyone and it's not going to fit everyone's needs, but being able to really drill down and focus on what you're good at, what you're specialized in, and what your goals are. That's going to be something that you need to watch.
And I love that you preface all of that, and even the mention of digital and AI and how all of those things are doing by shoring up all the things that you said about your team and your leadership, and the relationship and communication with your leadership and all those things. So it's not AI isn't going to jump out and fix your problems and pick your niche and go get your market for you. That's not how this works. Your team does that. Your leadership guides that and has that growth mindset, and then your team does that along with you and figures that out in using tools wisely, right?
Yeah. AI is great. I mean, it has certainly helped, I think, the marketing industry and the banking industry as a whole with, fraud protection and resources, being able to approve loans faster with underwriting. So, AI has certainly shaped the banking industry, and it's useful for content creation, for marketing. But I just always caution marketers to be careful when you're using AI, because it still doesn't have that human element. It doesn't truly know First Financial Bank and our story just yet, as well as our marketing team. So I always, when we're utilizing AI, we're editing it afterwards. We never just take a straight prompt or an ad or an image. We're adding that human element and editing it and just making it more about the First Financial Bank way versus what ChatGPT throws out at you. So just consumers are so much smarter than they were, months ago, and just because I think more consumers are utilizing AI and ChatGPT, so they're picking up on prompts and content and verbiage and imagery, and I think that's something that marketing and marketers need to be mindful of. Is, you could potentially have some distrust in consumers if they are noticing that it's AI and it's not really about who you are and who you are at your bank. So I just always I caution my team all the time. I know you use AI, but did you edit this? Show me how you created this and made it your own and made it the First Financial Bank way. So, yeah.
Great advice. I think AI will get you 80% of the way there, but not 100.
That's right. It doesn't.
Yep. That's right. Well, Amber, this has been just awesome. So much great takeaway information and stuff that has happened during the course of this conversation that speaking of AI, we have good summary notes that people can go to bankmarketingshow.com and check out the episode there and have some good summary notes that will be helpful, because this has been for everybody in the industry. You've talked about some great takeaway stuff here today. So I appreciate that very much.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. And Dan, we never let our guests out of here without a lightning round.
Nope.
Yep. So if you're up for it, Amber, we've got to hold you just a couple of more minutes.
Okay, let's do it.
All right. Well, we always start with a good one. Tell us about a personal best or a business best that comes to mind for you.
I would say, just thinking about last year, our core conversion and being able to navigate that with our marketing efforts, I thought we had some really strong campaigns and resonated with our team members, and we handled that really well. So I'm proud of us, and that was something that we leaned on a lot of our partners for.
It's a big project.
Oh, it's huge.
Yeah, that's right. All right, super. Tell us about a favorite book or other resource that comes to mind for you.
One thing that a resource I would say is it's a book by Gary Allen, and it's Getting Things Done, and it's the Getting Things Done methodology, and it just really helps you, I would say, tackle your to-do list, prioritize, and just making you more efficient. Especially with all of the ways that we collect information through email, phones, text, in person. And it just kind of gives you more of a system to kind of navigate that and be productive and kind of execute your day to day with all the things that are going on, whether it's personal or business.
That's a great one. Very familiar with it. Yeah. All right, super. Can you think of an impactful piece of advice that you've received, something that stands out for you?
Probably about the just being very specialized, really focusing on the quality over quantity. And that's something that is hard to do sometimes, but just staying true to who you are and focusing on that. That's something that we focus on here within our team is, quality over quantity.
Like that. Yeah. Well, so speaking of your team, what's a piece of advice or direction that you use that you advise your team?
For my team, I always just tell them, do the best. That's all you can do at the end of the day. And just, stay positive.
Mm-hmm. Well, that reflects knowing some of your team and the again, the work culture that you guys have is really phenomenal, Amber. So that's true words spoken. Those aren't just words. You guys put those into action. So
thank you.
Well, great. Well, so Amber, how can folks get in touch with you? And do you mind them reaching out to you if they want to discuss this more?
Not at all. I encourage that. I love building my network and having more bank marketers to talk to. So certainly they can reach out to me through our website, www.ffb1.com. We have a contact form there. And then also you can email me at amurphy@ffb1, that's the number 1.com.
Awesome. All right. Well, we knew, Dan, you and I talked about this a while back, and I started telling you about Amber and how she and the First Financial Bank team do things and all that, we were like, yep, our crowd needs to hear this. So it's been really great to have you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the time and thank y'all for what you're doing for bank marketers across the industry. We need this. We need these specialized talks to kind of keep us going. So just appreciate y'all's efforts and what you're doing here.
Yeah, thank you so much for being on the show and taking the time. I think it's just great. Like I said at the start, it's just great to hear the banker perspective on all this too, and you're putting a lot of these best practices into play. And so to talk a little about like the success you're seeing and how it's helping the bank is great, and hopefully it's been helpful for some folks listening.
Tremendous. Well, thank you so much, Amber, and we appreciate you very much.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks for joining us. To go deeper or get access to some of the valuable nuggets from today's show, go to bankmarketingshow.com. There you'll find episodes, links to resources, and much more. Be sure to subscribe wherever you find your podcasts. And join us next time.